Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our entitled parents. In today's episode, Mother misunderstands how private buses work. You called CPS because a toddler was running around naked? My father demands an apology after 10 years of no contact. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Mother misunderstands how private buses work. Okay, so here's a story from when I was about 11 or 12. It was that time of the day when we get picked up from school. I'd been taking the bus since I was 11, as my parents deemed me old enough and said it would help me grow my individuality. Plus, it was a school bus reserved for the kids only, so I was in no danger. But anyway, it was a Friday afternoon, and I was looking forward to going home and spending the weekend playing Persona 3, when there was some sort of commotion at the front of the bus. I looked ahead and saw some mother trying to get on the bus with her child. Now, this bus was strictly for children only, for what should be obvious reasons. We had no way to clarify if this woman was actually someone's mother, and it was better safe than sorry, as they say. What I heard next, though, was absolutely mind-boggling, though. The conversation between the driver and this lady was, frankly, hilarious. Keep in mind, I was living in the UK at the time, so prepare for some British slang phrases. Bus driver, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't get on. The bus is reserved for the children. You'll have to find another way dash. Mother, WTF? Keep in mind, this is a bus with 8 to 12-year-olds on it. I come all the way out here. I walk to collect my daughter, only to find some minimum wage asshole won't let me get this bus home? Do you know what I've gone through? Bus driver, sorry, ma'am, but children only. We can't risk letting a random adult on. Mother, so you're calling me a nonce? How do I know you aren't one? At this point, everybody on the bus was staring at the woman, and the poor driver looked like he wanted to just get on with his job. But of course, the woman would not relent. Mother, I have a right to be on this bus. My children are part of the school. Bus driver, then by all means, your children can get on. Just not you. It's policy. By then, the daughter, who was around my age, tried to slip onto the bus, blushing, clearly embarrassed at the attention, but her mother sharply tugged her back. Mother, no girl. You are not getting on this bus until this asshole lets me on with you. After 10 minutes of back and forth, the mother eventually left, taking her child with her, and the driver sighed with relief as we finally headed off home. The ironic part is, the woman's daughter, I ended up dating, and I still do to this day. And she said once, and I quote, sometimes, I wish I had your parents, or even anybody else's. You're dating her daughter? I look forward to more EP stories in the future than LMAO. The worst part is the EP sounds like she'd pull the, my daughter's been getting good grades. I deserve to get a dowry during marriage planning like the nonce she is. Just an overprotective mom, I guess. Yeah, I know. It probably is far from the worst parent story. What made me want to share it is the language she used when in the presence of preteens. I saw Persona 3 and instantly upvoted. You called CPS because a toddler was running around naked? I was visiting with a very good friend of mine this weekend after a mutual friend's birthday party. We'd all gone, but it wasn't really a place conducive to quiet enjoyment of a friend's company. There was lots of noise and lights and sugary birthday goodies that everyone partook in, including my friend's 2 sons. One of them isn't 1 yet, and the other is balls deep into the terrible 2s. The answer for everything is no, even when the answer was meant to be yes. It's hilarious, mostly because I can go home. My friend and his wife? They're tired. Understandably so. So, We were sitting in front of the TV and minding the boys while my buddy's wife wanted some time not spent in the immediate vicinity of her offspring, which, honestly, fair. She drove off in her car and when I know not where, and we divided the labor equally. My friend had the kid who couldn't walk yet, and they were curled up on the couch. I think the intent was for a quiet nap. Me? I was stuck with the 2-year-old, and we had beef. At one point in the birthday party, I was playing skee-ball at an arcade and offered my last ball to the 2-year-old. He wound up like he was on a baseball mound, and I wound up having to go, "Nana no," and intervene. He has yet to forgive me for this transgression. So, my charge for a little bit decided watching Bluey was for suckers, and he was going in search of adventure, and I was following him around, because that's what you do when someone places the welfare of their child in your hands. The whole time, he's sulking and glaring at me every time he realizes I'm still behind him. It was so hard not to laugh because it was so overblown and dramatic. So we're in the boys' room, and the kid I'm watching is currently trying to cram his little body under his bed and shouting about wanting mama. Tough luck, kid. Mama's taking a break. You're stuck with me. And then there's a knock at the door. It's a caseworker from CPS and a police officer. I didn't realize this at the time, as I was trying to make sure the kid's head wouldn't actually get stuck under the bed. I'd never live it down. My buddy answers the door and is rather alarmed to see the pair waiting at the door. Then they came in and my buddy shouted for me to come back to the living room with the kid. So I scoop up my charge, and he starts squirming and squawking because he wanted to be under the bed, and clearly this is not under the bed. Matter of fact, this is the opposite. And he promptly shuts up. Because strangers. Caseworker goes on to explain that they've gotten reports about toddlers being left outside in the snow with only a diaper on, being left naked to run around the house, bruises on the kids, etc., etc. For the uninitiated, most toddlers, they cannot stand wearing clothes. They want out of them immediately. Even the hint of a chance at ditching the clothing and they'll go for it. The cop looks around for a moment and says something to the CPS worker and then leaves. I sit with the 2-year-old, who was clothed by the way, and my buddy does all of the talking. I can tell he's furious, but I didn't really know why at the time. Caseworker wanders around the house a little bit, takes a look at both kids, then shrugs and says he can't see any evidence behind the report, but everyone has to be investigated. They'll be in touch, but it won't be a home visit unless new evidence or reports comes to light. After the caseworker leaves, my buddy hands me the not quite 1-year-old, takes out his phone, and goes into the basement, and promptly starts screaming at the top of his lungs into the phone. The 1-year-old just went back to napping, and the 2-year-old showed some survival instincts. He just looked at me and said, "Daddy mad," and watched TV with me and his brother. My friend's mother had some sort of mental illness flare up on her out of nowhere. I don't really know the details because it's not my business, but what little I did hear about was horrific enough. Evidently on Grandma's last visit, the 2-year-old managed to escape the clutches of bath time and wound up making a beeline straight out the open front door into the snow. He realized this was a poor life choice seconds after escaping, mostly from face planting into snow after tripping, and struggled not at all to be brought back in for bath time. Why was the door open? Grandma's new boyfriend was rather drunk and attempting to bring in a pile of Christmas gifts that were arriving in late January. He fell down the stairs when he tried opening the door, so they just propped the door open to allow easier offloading. In a nutshell, shit happens. Kids have minds of their own and do their own thing. He was never in any actual danger, just a 2-year-old doing 2-year-old things. The fact that Grandma twisted the event in such a fashion honestly confuses me, especially since the root cause of the kid getting out at all wasn't even my friend's fault. The really messed up part about the report, though? The reason there was a cop there was because Grandma told CPS that her son was an alcoholic with a mean streak when he was drunk, and he kept a gun at the door. He does keep a gun by the door. It's a double-barrel shotgun in a small safe with a keypad. Because he lives in the boonies, and it's not unusual to see things like bears. To the best of my knowledge, though, the only time that gun is fired is at a range, so my buddy and his wife can use the weapon competently if the need should arise. Her own son, though? Friend is going to need a restraining order on his mom. Make sure they document everything and get a copy of the police call. That might be difficult. Aforementioned grandma's new drunk boyfriend? Pretty sure he's a state policeman. This, and a basic CMS-funded nursing home. If I was a betting woman, I'd say that friends called grandma out/blamed her for toddler escape. Set boundaries about what is and is not allowed around toddler. And this was grandma's attempt at punishment. Or I've just spent way too much time on Reddit. It would not surprise me to learn that grandma has a bad relationship with her daughter-in-law and her son is supporting his wife over his mother. So in her wisdom, she decided to stir up some crap in hopes it will show her son that she means business. If she's really lucky, CPS will take the kids away from them for a while and grandma gets a second chance being a mother. Hopefully grandma now finds out what consequences are, as I doubt her son and his wife will be allowing grandma anywhere around them in the future. And she learns the meaning of FAFO. I had to stop reading for a few minutes because you had beef with a 2-year-old. That made my night. Thank you. Time for your friend to go no contact. By the way, you're a great writer. You had me rolling a few times. And the part about the report indicating the kid was all bruised up? It's the natural state of toddlers to be bruised. They're learning how their body moves through space, and the learning is from the school of hard knocks. I remember looking at my toddler's adorably chubby little legs once and thinking that they looked like I'd done awful things to him. If I were your friend, I'd avoid grandma for a while. Maybe till the kiddos are in college, even. My father demands an apology after 10 years of no contact. When I was 11 years old, my parents divorced. My father cheated a lot and my mother forgave him every time because she wanted to keep the family together. When I was 11, my father cheated again and ran off with this woman. What followed was a huge divorce with a lot of fighting and arguing. The only thing my father didn't want was us as children. It was decided that I had to go to my father at the weekends. Because where I live, divorces go through the courts and they think it is important that children continue to see both their parents. During these weekends, I was used more as a kind of Cinderella by my father and his girlfriend, and I was systematically abused mentally and physically. Every time I made a mistake in their eyes, didn't do something the way they wanted, didn't get things done on time because I had a lot to do, I was beaten with objects or just by hand. My father's favorite thing was his belt, and my stepmother liked to use an electric fly swatter, which gives off electric shocks when you turn it on so that you can kill the fly without crushing it, so to speak. If you hold it against your skin with the metal part, you will get a pretty hard electric shock. To this day, I am terrified of electric fly swatters, even though where I live they are very common household things. I managed to hide the abuse for years by wearing baggy clothes with long sleeves, whether it was summer or winter. Because of this, I quickly became the weird kid at school and had no friends. The abuse had enormous mental consequences, but I wanted to persevere because I was afraid that if I stopped coming on weekends, my father's girlfriend would work out her anger on my little sister. She was only 5 when my parents broke up. I withdrew more and more to my room when I was with my mother so that I didn't have to talk to her. My mother is a sweetheart. She is really sweet and friendly and only wanted the best for me. She thought I was having trouble with the divorce and that I was starting to go through puberty. She regularly suggested that I go to a therapist, but I always didn't want to because I wanted to protect my sister. When I was 16, my gym teacher found out about the bruises because I suffered an injury during sports class and she had to look at my legs. As a result, child protection was immediately called to see that I was covered in bruises. My mother was so shocked that she kept me and my sister at home from that moment on. The judge decided that the contact arrangements were terminated and that we as children no longer had to visit my father. My father has always blamed me for the fact that he no longer sees his children. He called me a bad daughter, and I should never have told anyone what happened in our home. He felt that it was no one's business and that it was bad parenting. That it would make me hard and grow up to be a strong woman who could serve her husband in this way. That if I behaved better and did what I was told, I wouldn't have to be beaten. 10 years have passed since then. Because of what happened, and we lived in a small village, everyone knows what happened and he and his now wife did to me. I moved far away from them and cut off all contact with him. I went to therapy to learn to deal with everything. I have a very sweet partner who supports me and also helps me to overcome my fears that I developed because of my father. I regularly have panic attacks at home and am afraid of being home alone. We bought a video doorbell so I can see who is at the door without having to go to the door because I'm afraid he will find out my address and come to see me. He has already tried to find out my address a few times through my sister, since she has been in contact with him again for a few years. Her reasoning was that they have not done anything to her and they are always kind to her, so she sees no reason not to visit regularly. Recently, I received a letter from my father through my sister in which he demanded that I apologize for my behavior and that because of me the entire village thinks he is a disgrace. In the letter he said that he is getting older and his hearing and vision are getting worse. He demands that I apologize to him and that I introduce him to my partner, who really doesn't want that because he knows my entire history. He thinks he has been a good father and that being raised by my mother has made me soft and that I am a bad woman now that I am pursuing a career outside the home in biology. My sister tells me that I should just say sorry and that he will really leave me alone afterwards. He really just wants to hear that he was a good father and that I regret talking to people 10 years ago when they saw my bruises. I really don't want to, but my sister and father's family keep pestering me to say that I should just do it so that he can close it off and the village will no longer find him a shame. I really don't want to, and I haven't slept at night because of it. I don't know what to do anymore and my partner tries to keep me calm, so I don't have to think about it anymore because it gives me panic attacks. But my father and his family keeps insisting and nagging me to do it by sending me messages on social media and calling or WhatsApp me. I keep blocking them, but they create new throwaway accounts to reach me or give letters and messages to my sister so she can give them to me. I didn't tell my mother about this because she already feels very guilty that she didn't notice the abuse at all those years ago. So, what do you think? Should I just apologize to get it over with? Hell no. I have seen his behavior many times when I worked in law enforcement. He is a typical narcissist abuser who will go to any length to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. You have done nothing wrong at any time. Tell him to burn in hell. I'm sorry. I didn't tell people sooner what an abusive, pathetic, immoral, sorry excuse for a man you have always been. Happy now? Send him a bill for all of your therapy. Tell your sister you don't want the monster in your life, and she is lucky she was never abused. Edited to add, have a lawyer send them a cease and desist letter. If they continue after that, call the police and report the harassment. FR, your sister is lucky to never be abused and lucky to have a big sister like you. Tell your sister to stop giving you any letters from them. Don't even read it. I can't believe your sister is regularly visiting him knowing what they did to you. I still haven't forgotten the one time my brother stood up for me like 10 years ago. I would never do something that would hurt him like what your sister is doing. Shut down your social media accounts and tell your sister to throw away anything she gets from relatives for you that you don't want to see or hear from the relatives ever again on those subjects. Do not ever apologize. He doesn't deserve it. Tell your sister to stop talking about him or you'll go and see with her too. He only cares about his reputation in the village. Don't make his life easier. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.